My fiance doesn't know that my ex-boyfriend pays for all my bills and my student loans. Although I do love my fiance, he really never offers to pay for things unless I ask him to. And not that I need him to pay, but it would be nice to know that he has my back for once. After a year of dating, we got engaged, and we've been engaged now for 2 months. I will say my fiance is definitely one of my best friends. I literally can tell this man anything and he never judges me. He's also my hype man, and he's also super funny, and we laugh like all day long. So this is the part where I have to tell you about my ex. My ex and I were together for 4 years. He is a very successful man, very rich and very handsome. And the reason we broke up is because we would get into really bad fights. He was extremely jealous and so was I. The relationship was absolutely completely toxic. So it's not like I want to get back with him, but he was the kind of guy that paid for everything. Even if I had the money to pay for it, he would always offer to pay for me. We were so attracted to each other, but we were crazy. When we broke up, my ex told me that he would always help me financially no matter what. He's obviously kept his promise to this day. Part 2 is up. My fiance does not know that my ex pays for my bills and my student loans. After my crazy toxic relationship with my ex, he promised he would always help me financially. So in 2020, when I lost my job, I hit him up and he sent me money right away. He sent me $10,000 to start with. I paid bills and some of my student loans off, and 3 months later I asked him for another 10 grand. But he actually sent me 30 instead. This held me over for almost a full year. This was right around the time that I met my now fiance. When my fiance and I started dating, of course I was not going to tell him that my ex was paying for my stuff. He just assumed that I had money saved up. Luckily last year I did get rehired at my old job, but with a pay cut. When my fiance and I moved in together, I asked him if he could pay most of the rent, and he said no. He said he was only able to pay for half of the rent, and he literally splits everything. This man even makes me split the cost of toilet paper. I get a Venmo request from him almost every single day every time he buys something. I'm trying not to let it bother me, but at the same time, is he going to be able to support me when I'm pregnant? I asked him if he would be willing to help me financially. He said no. Part 3 is up. My fiance doesn't know that my ex is paying for my student loans and my bills. That's when I asked my fiance if he could help me out financially. This man said no. I was actually shocked. I started to cry and I told him exactly what I thought. First off, he makes me split everything and never invites me out to dinner. Like, never offers to pay for anything. Even if I wanted like a cookie or something at Starbucks, he doesn't pay for that. I have offered to pay for things for him. Sometimes I'll buy dinner for us on the way home and I don't ask him to pay me. I was really close to confessing to him that my ex was paying for a lot of stuff for me. But that's when my fiance told me that he just thinks it's fair for me to pay for my own things. I asked him, what about when I'm pregnant? What if I can't work? He says that I can just pay for my stuff with my own savings. Then I asked him if he would be able to pay for all the kids' things. He said no, that I would have to pay for exactly half of the kids' things. And I know what you're thinking. The fact that we didn't have this conversation before we got engaged is crazy. Now I really want to tell him about my ex. And I'm even thinking about getting back with my crazy ex. My fiance is just so blah now to me. Like, I can't even look at him the same way anymore. I know I'm not being unreasonable. It's not like I'm asking him to pay for everything. What should I do?
A Diary of a Wimpy Kid actor proved not to be so wimpy after murdering his mom and planning to kill the Prime Minister. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. Ryan Gratham was a child actor who first started in The Secret of the Nutcracker at 9 years old. Not long after The Nutcracker, he became more successful and featured in highly successful films such as Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Becoming Redwood. He also starred in successful shows like Supernatural and Riverdale. Pretty ordinary upbringing minus his dad, who wasn't part of his life. It was just him, his sister, and mom, and he actually had a really close relationship with his mom. Until Ryan became clinically depressed. When COVID-19 first hit and we all quarantined, his mental health suffered even more. His clinical depression was causing him to fantasize about homicide and suicide. But Ryan kept suppressing his fantasies and urges. Until one day he took his GoPro camera and he started rehearsing on how he was going to murder his mother. Yes, he filmed himself practicing to kill his mom. He would creep up behind his mom with his rifle and point it at her head. Then he would let go of the trigger and just walk away. He did this over and over and over again, but never pulled the trigger. Until one day he did something different, something strange. This day, Ryan was in his room and he was just loading and unloading his gun, loading and unloading his gun. He just did this over and over until he was satisfied. He then went downstairs, creeped up behind his mom, and this time he shot her with no hesitation. Again, he took his camera and recorded his mom's deceased body while he confessed. He also documented everything in his journal. He then laid a white sheet on her and a rosary on top of her, and he put candles around her body. Then he went upstairs to watch Netflix for 2.5 hours until he fell asleep. The next day, part 2 of his plan commenced. He was going to drive 50 hours away to kill the Prime Minister. On his way there, he changed his mind and thought of doing something that would mean more to him. He was fighting between Simon Fraser University, where he attended, and the Lionsgate Bridge to commit mass murder. But instead, he went to a police station and told a cop that I killed my mom. He confessed to everything and showed the video and journal as evidence, like for part 2. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid actor murdered his mom and planned to kill the Prime Minister, part 2. Okay, so boom, like I said, one day after killing his mom and watching Netflix, he went to the police station and he confessed to everything. He showed the video of himself practicing murdering his mom and also the journal of him planning to kill the Prime Minister. 4 minutes of home footage with him practicing to kill his mom and also videotaping his mom's deceased body and confessing on the video. He said he only killed his mom to stop her from seeing him potentially kill the Prime Minister and do other mass murders. So he killed his mom so that she wouldn't see him killing other people. He's been sentenced to life in prison and eligible for parole in 14 years.
Am I wrong for sending my boyfriend a photo of me at the hospital? I, 20 female, was recently admitted into a hospital for a night due to a serious but no life-threatening illness. I was completely out of it for several days with horrible pain before my roommate convinced me to get medical help. She took off work to stay with me in the hospital, and I cannot express how much her support has helped as my own family lives too far away. Now, I've been dating Sam, 19 male, for about 9 months. He knew I was sick, and so I texted him when I was first going into the hospital to update him. Since he was working, he didn't read the messages until much later. I sent him around 6 texts updating him with what the nurses were saying and including a photo of me on IV giving a thumbs up. It was my first time ever in the hospital, and I just wanted to keep the situation as lighthearted as possible. He responded a few hours later with a thumbs up, and that was all. I asked if everything was alright, and he said, "Yeah, just you being in the hospital is giving me a lot of anxiety. I'd rather not see you looking like that." I told him that was okay and didn't message him for the rest of the night, not thinking much of it. The next afternoon, his mom called me asking if I was okay. She had the impression that I sent him the hospital photo after he told me not to share any information and was disrespecting his request. She reminded me that his grandfather only died a year earlier, where Sam had to spend a lot of time in and out of the hospital, so the updates were making him grieve all over again. I apologized to her and sent him a text saying I didn't mean to hurt his feelings, and he left me on read. My roommate thinks I didn't do anything wrong at all, and he's being too sensitive/immature for involving his mom. Personally, I think this is a bit unfair as he was really close with his grandfather and struggles with anxiety. I feel really guilty as I know how mental health can be and never want him to suffer.
Literally thought I was going into labor at the mall right now. I was shopping for some cowgirl boots. All of a sudden, I feel something shoving itself down here. I'm like, what is this? I'm 6.5 months pregnant. This baby can't come out until 3 months from now. But when I tell you I had to walk like this to my truck because I couldn't physically close my legs. Nobody told me this baby was gonna try to do practice runs like if these are fire drills before delivery.